I already see it in the chat. Somebody's wondering what happened to 49ers After Dark. Well, Grant's on vacation and the timing wasn't going to work. So we pushed to next week, which is fine because I had topics at the top of my mind ready for that show that Ryan and I now can go over. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do open mic night. I'll take the first 5 callers. So if you're expecting open mic, you will get it, but I'm going to limit it to the first 5 callers. So be ready to go when I drop that link. I have a take, though, that I've been thinking about over the last night or so that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. And I think that most of you will agree with me when I lay it out, but I think it's worth talking about. So Ryan and I are going to discuss that and more next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as you see, and as I talked about, I got my guy, Ryan, with me tonight. What's up, Ryan?
What's up, buddy, man? Glad to be here. I think it's my 3rd time on Last Second Sports.
You went from not being on. You literally can't complain anymore. You've been on my show now as much as I've been on yours at this point.
Well, it's close. It's definitely close.
All right. When I call in, that doesn't count.
Right. I want to apologize if my internet freezes to everybody watching. I got a guy coming tomorrow. He's going to fix it. I promise. So I apologize in advance if it freezes up.
Oh, bro, I used to have the craziest internet issues here, and they had to replace everything. They had to replace the wiring to my house. They had to replace like the outside whatever in my garage. Like, it was wild for the longest time. I could not get the internet to work. Luckily, it wasn't during this time when I was streaming. It was when we would have, like, my wife and I were both working during the day at the same time. It would screw up. So
yeah.
Anyways, not having good internet is the worst, especially when you try to run a live show. So I feel it. Hopefully it works for you. If not, we know how to keep things pushing around here. Let me say what's up to the chat real quick. What's up, 187? Jared, Clarzard, Foy, Freddie. I see y'all. Tommy, what's up, Gammon? All right, here we go. Gammon already has a question. He says, question, Jesse, does it ever bother you that your name is constantly spelled wrong? No, because it's happened my whole entire life. So I don't get mad at that. People don't, and you did it there, which is funny. I honestly usually don't even catch it. It's funny that you spelled it wrong and I didn't even catch it. So no, man, it doesn't bother me. It's not on purpose by any means. So no big deal. All right, let's get into it, Ryan. I've got 4 topics here that I want to go over with you. And the first one, I know I've talked about this with other people, but it seems as if the 49ers have this urgency all of a sudden to go out and win a Super Bowl. And I know that every year they're trying to win. That's not what I'm talking about. It seems like they understand, or they get the feeling or portray the feeling that they believe that this window is 2 more years. That's just the feeling I get, because they're talking about this rookie quarterback contract thing, which I had never heard them talk about before, and why it's so important to have these inexpensive quarterbacks. And then, hopefully one of them is really good and they have to pay him a lot of money. But they're portraying to the fans, I believe, that they feel like they have a 2-year window this year and next year. And I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at the landscape of their contracts, whose contracts are going to balloon, who's going to be out of contract, just the age of some of the core players on the team, Trent Williams, Kittle, Armstead. But do you agree with this? Do you think that their Super Bowl window is just 2 years, or how do you feel about this situation?
Well, I think an underrated player on this 49ers, as good as he is Trent Williams, right? I mean, everyone knows he's great, but he's still underrated in my opinion. When you lose Trent Williams, it's a tough battle to replace him, right? That's the big thing that I see coming. The 49ers have shown, though, that they're able to draft really well in those later rounds. I think they're going to be okay as far as like the entire roster from a Super Bowl standpoint. I understand that there's a couple guys that they might lose, but they've shown that they can find new guys. And I really think the 49ers are going to be okay in regards to that. They may never be able to replace like a Trent Williams type of player, but they'll be able to find other positions like, guys like Kittle. I think they'll be able to find somebody that can fill his spot. But yeah, I mean, in general, overall, the roster is going to be pretty strong over the next year or two, and they're going to have to do slight like rebuilding, restructurings after that. I could definitely see that. But I mean, as we always talk about, I mean, do they really have a Super Bowl window until they have the quarterback position figured out? And so to me, the real window doesn't open until they do. And maybe it'll happen this year. Maybe Trey Lance will come out and prove that he is that guy. Maybe Brock Purdy will come back and prove that he's that guy. Maybe no, I'm not going to say that, but who knows?
Can't even say that one with a serious face, Ryan. Come on.
So, I mean, who knows? But that's what they got to figure out for a real Super Bowl window, in my opinion. I think that, Trent Williams could retire, and if they find an elite quarterback, they can still win a Super Bowl if they find that guy, So I kind of have a mixed opinion about that.
Well, yeah, Mr. G says the Super Bowl window is 19 years if Trey turns out to be our franchise quarterback. I can agree with that, but I think the original point, or the point that you made at the end, is kind of where I'm at, is I feel like the window is unlocked. When I look at the Super Bowl window, is it wide open? Like the Kansas City Chiefs, their window's wide open. I think the Buffalo Bills, the Bengals, their window is wide open because they've got elite level quarterbacks. The Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, they could be there. Maybe the Jaguars, maybe they're a year away. But these teams that have these quarterbacks that are on the come up or are elite, that's where the real Super Bowl window's at.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the 49ers window is even open. Like maybe there's a draft coming through. Maybe they need to get their windows replaced. Maybe that baby's unlocked. I don't know. But I don't think it's just sitting wide open, ready to jump through to win a Super Bowl. Now, if the question is them getting to a Super Bowl, is that wide open? Yes, because I think the NFC is extremely open. I think that they have as good, if not a better chance than anybody to actually make it to a Super Bowl. But once they get there, I think that's where they are going to potentially run into problems until they find their franchise guy. And whether that's Purdy, Lance, we'll say it, Sam, somebody else, I don't know. But right now they've got to figure that out. And so that's where things get really interesting. And that's where, this 2-year window of this team right now, I do agree. I think with this roster, it's 2 years. But as far as a window opening, you get that franchise guy and things change no matter what. I mean, it's nice to have a George Kittle and a Trent Williams and these things, but elite quarterback play can throw all that out that window and open it wide up. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and I guess in defense of the 49ers, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to find that elite quarterback. No. But they have had 7 years now. So it's not easy to do it right away, but you had 7 years. And honestly, the 49ers have had, 20 years to find that elite quarterback? For a minute there, I thought Cap was the guy, but that fizzled out pretty quickly.
I know.
So they really haven't had an elite quarterback since Garcia. So it's tough, man. It definitely is. But once you get that quarterback, then you're just missing a few pieces here and there, which is much easier to find. And so it just boils down to the quarterback, man. That's really what it's all about.
It's interesting because I have a Cap signature, and I was tempted when they traded for Jimmy to get his signature and never did. Obviously tempted when they drafted Trey, never got his either. I've got to see it. Purdy obviously put together some really good games, but until that's the next signature that I want is the 49ers franchise quarterback. And luckily I've saved myself a lot of money in not buying these signatures because I collect autographs. That's kind of, my fun thing to do. So that's what I want is the 49ers get a franchise quarterback, to know that they have a franchise quarterback. And then I can get that next signature and display it here or on my wall here in the game room, whatever I want. But it's tough. It is tough.
Just the way you're thinking, Jed York's got to be thinking the same way, right? Like he can't really market a franchise quarterback yet because he doesn't know. And I'm sure he wants to, because that's a lot more money for an organization. And just you brought up a point that a lot of people aren't talking about. I wanted to bring up a point that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
Last night I tweeted it and you retweeted it. I haven't heard anybody say this, but we're talking about all these rumors of quarterbacks coming to the 49ers, and everyone's saying, oh, that's a a mark of that means they don't believe in Trey Lance. Well, I thought Brock Purdy was QB1, head of the clubhouse.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, if you're talking about that, do you really believe in Brock Purdy? Right? And nobody's really saying that. And it's surprising to me that they're not. But if you're looking for Aaron Rodgers, Cousins, they're coming in to start. And so that kind of says something about their feelings on Brock Purdy. And they might really like him. I'm sure they really like him. And he played really well last year. But there's got to be concerns there with that injury. And maybe just overall, the sample size has not been enough.
Yeah, I think that's it. It is funny that because really the indictment on Trey has already been made. If they're choosing Purdy without a competition, if he was healthy, or they're making Trey compete with Sam Darnold, I mean, they've kind of already made their indictment as far as that goes. However, they've also said that Purdy's the guy. And so if they are kicking the tires on these other players for whatever reason, now they're saying that Purdy's also not the guy. Yeah. So it's not Trey, it's now Purdy. It is a strange thing, and we're going to talk about some of these rumors in a minute, but from a little bit of a different angle. We've got Fair the God says Mahomes just won a Super Bowl trading off their number one wide receiver, who, by the way, went to Miami and had the best year of his career. A bunch of number two receivers, and with a league of the most rookies playing and starting. Yeah, I actually just made a video on the second channel about the Chiefs and how they're on the verge of being a dynasty. And basically they've taken the blueprint from what the New England Patriots did. They got their quarterback, and teams, it is hard to get your quarterback, but there are a lot of superstar quarterbacks that have come throughout this league that didn't end up turning their teams into dynasties. There's other things that you have to do once you have that guy. They've taken the blueprint from the New England Patriots, and it does include basically choosing a few guys that they're willing to pay, and then everybody else can walk. Everybody else is expendable. Oh, you've got a legit left tackle? Yeah, we're not going to overpay for you. Oh, we've got one of the best wide receivers in the game? Yeah, we're not going to pay for you. Oh, we have a really good safety in Tyrann Mathieu? We're not going to pay for you. Oh, our running back's playing pretty good? Yeah, we're replacing you. Like, it doesn't matter. None of it matters except for Mahomes, Chris Jones, and Kelsey, and Andy Reid. That's the four that they're building around. None of the other stuff matters, and they are losing Charvarius Ward. I mean, the 49ers got Charvarius Ward. I don't know. I think he's a number one corner in the league. I think he's a top 10 corner. They were willing to let him go in his prime. Tyreek Hill in his prime. Their left tackle, Brown, in his prime. Tyrann Mathieu was a little bit older, but still playing good football. They don't care. They do not care. And they can have that attitude because they have a quarterback that can overcome a lot of that. And they have a coach that can scheme past all of that. I don't know. It must feel good to be a team that has an elite quarterback. You don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah. It would be so nice to go into multiple years knowing who your quarterback is. As a 49er fan, I would love it. It seems like the 49ers are just kind of like, excuse my language, but they do everything ass backwards. Like they're, the rest of the league is going to passing game. 49ers are like, oh, we're going to double down on the run game and defense. The rest of the league is spending on trying to find that elite quarterback. The 49ers are like, let's build the roster and we can find us a serviceable quarterback. And who knows? Maybe it'll pay off, but it hasn't so far. And I feel like it's kind of stubborn.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it is one of those things where I look across, like, okay, would you rather have, let's look at where the 49ers are at. We know that they can win the NFC. They've been there. So you take the 49ers last 4 years, what they've been able to do, where they're at right now with their quarterback position. Would you rather be them, or would you rather have the Chargers roster right now? A team that just blew a big lead in the wild card round to an up-and-coming Jaguars team. Which roster would you rather have? Which one would you feel better about going into the future with?
The thing is, man, I just feel like if you had Herbert on your team, they could find those other pieces, right? They could find those other pieces in the draft and in the free agency. It's that quarterback is a hard thing to find. You could find these other pieces.
Yep.
They prioritize these other pieces. We got the best left tackle. We got the best middle linebacker. We got the best this and that. But great. your quarterback is mid or unknown right now.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's, I wanted to use the Chargers as an example because, of course, the Chiefs, they just won a Super Bowl, but I think the Chargers are a good example. This is a team that kind of is underachieved, but you give me that quarterback that I believe in Justin Herbert. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in this league. So for me, you give me that, and I know I've got that for the next 15 years. I feel better about that than anything that the 49ers have right now. Until I get that quarterback, I don't rest easy as a fan or think that we're going to win any sort of Super Bowl. That's just my gut feeling. I'm not saying they can't win a Super Bowl or it's impossible, or I wouldn't be completely shocked with this roster if they somehow finally broke through, but I don't look at the 49ers, even if they win a Super Bowl, that dynasty thing that we're talking about with the Chiefs, they're on the verge of that. That's not possible. It's not possible. Yeah. It's just not. You may break through once, but you're not going to go back to back or win 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 6 or none of that without a quarterback. You're just not. It's not the way the NFL's built.
100% facts, man. It's a little frustrating. Year 7, I tweeted out like 2 days ago that I think there were 7. Was it yesterday or the day before? It might have been yesterday. I think I read like 7 different quarterbacks could possibly be the quarterback for the 49ers this year, man. And it's just like, damn, can we just make a decision and see if it works?
For sure. Gammon says, I now hold supremacy of the highest donation. Step up your game, people. So if somebody gave $9.99, you gave $10. Nice. I like it. Okay, let's talk about this because we've been talking about the quarterback position, and you were talking about the rumor mill, and you're right. I mean, in the last couple of days, we've heard Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady's name came back up. Silver threw that one back out again. Mac Jones has been talked about.
Yeah, that's 4.
I've even heard Zach Wilson in the last couple of weeks.
That's 5. Lamar Jackson.
So
Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold.
These rumors just keep coming out of. I mean, I don't want to say nowhere, but they're like, how many of them have legs to them? I don't know. But do you think it's fair game for people to continue to plant the rumor mill with the 49ers and QBs, given their current state at the quarterback position? Or, I mean, if you're the 49ers brass, are you frustrated with that? What do you think of this as a fan? Fair or foul?
Well, first of all, did we get Cousins? Is that 9? Is that 10?
I thought Cousins? I said I may not have. Who knows, man?
Right, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely different. I feel like this year is definitely different. It feels like in the past that when we heard rumors, there was some truth to them. There was some legs to them, at least an unconfirmed source or something like that. Now it's guys just say stuff, right? And then it just becomes a thing. In a way, it makes me happy to hear it because it makes me feel like the 49ers are understanding what we've been saying, where they need to go find that quarterback. So in a way, it makes me feel glad that they're trying to find that guy. Because if you bring like Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson, to me, I'll take both. I don't know how you feel about it, but I would take both in a heartbeat because I feel like with a Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, 49ers will win one of the next 2 Super Bowls. I just really believe that. So in a way, it makes me happy that they're actually doing that. Whether they actually are, though, or not, I don't know. I believe the Cousins one has some kind of legs to it. And the Rodgers one, honestly, wouldn't surprise me either because they've been trying to get Rodgers. They called on him, I think it was last year in the offseason. But again, it brings up the interesting part, which I brought up earlier, was, it's not just an indictment on Trey Lance. That would be an indictment on Brock Purdy. If you really believe in Brock Purdy as your QB1, you're not going to go looking for another guy. So I find that interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I think it's fair. It's completely fair. Until you get that quarterback, it's just the way that things are going to be. And especially because you are a team that's close. It's not like there are a lot of other teams that don't have their quarterback. I understand that. Yeah. But they're not close to breaking through. And they're not teams that you look at that you go, man, if they could just get a quarterback, they'd be good to go. The 49ers are right there. And it's good. And I actually have another comment I'm going to get to in a second that wasn't a super chat. But what's up, official B&A Music? He says, Jed York gets advice from Jody Allen.
I saw my guy lifting weights today on Twitter, man. I see you getting swole.
Yeah, he's such a funny. He's a really, really funny dude. Yeah. Really funny dude. Randall, I wanted to talk about this comment. Randall said, because I see this a lot, by the way. So this isn't, just you, Randall, but I'm glad you brought it up. He says, all the Niners have done the last 4 out of 5 seasons, NFC championships or Super Bowl. Be a fan of 27 other teams and see how you feel. I hear that. And I guess it could sound like, oh man, poor you're spoiled, whatever. But the bottom line is this. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 94. There's a lot of people that watch this channel, and you may be one of them, that you've never seen a Super Bowl. And I get that in the moment, it feels really good. Just like the Harbaugh era felt really good in the moment. 3 out of 4, second best team in the league for 3 out of 4 years. They even had what we thought was the young up-and-coming quarterback that would have been the guy who'd actually proven things, gotten to a Super Bowl, and Colin Kaepernick. We thought the sky was the limit. Oh, this run's never going to end. And then all of a sudden the unexpected happens and it fell out from under us. And here we are 10 years later this year. What did they do to commemorate those teams? Do you remember, Ryan, what they did?
Yeah, they brought him back, right? Yeah. You're talking about the 10-year anniversary?
Yeah, they brought him back and gave him a golf clap in the middle of a game when everybody was getting up from their seats to go get nachos, beer, and take a piss. That's what they did to commemorate it. So that's what's going to happen with this team. It feels great now, but Randall, if they don't win a Super Bowl in 10 years, this team's going to be like that Harbaugh era team. It's like, oh, here's the 2022 San Francisco 49ers. And everybody's like, all right, cool, moving on. Like, that's it. Like, that's all you're going to get. That's all anybody cares about. So,
yes. Can I respond to this comment too? Because so there's something I want fans to think about. When the 49ers start a season, Jed York, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, all the players, they want to win a Super Bowl. That's the same thing we want. They're never satisfied with, let's just go out. Let's just be competitive like a lot of these fans are. That's not what they're trying to do. So why should we want the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, this isn't, I hope you don't feel like I'm like taking a shot at you, Randall. You've always been a good contributor to the show, but this is the way a lot of people feel. And they hate it when Orion or myself or whoever gets up and says anything against the organization, because they're like, well, I mean, they obviously know what they're doing. I don't see you coaching a Super Bowl team. It's like, okay. And like, that's not my job. I didn't sign up to be a coach. I didn't sign, you know what I mean? And that's cool. They made it to a Super Bowl. Yes, it is a good feeling. I'm not going to lie. It's a very good feeling knowing that your team is going to be competitive every year. But it's also kind of a crappy feeling knowing that there's probably a ceiling, and that ceiling is not to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, yes, it feels really, really good. It's like when you set your goals and you know you can achieve them. But if you knew that you couldn't achieve the biggest goal of all of them that you've set for yourself, I mean, really, what's the point really? And that's the way I feel about the 49ers is I don't think they can achieve that ultimate goal. Not with the way that the roster is constructed now, unless one of these quarterbacks come out of nowhere and turn out to be the guy. So I hear you, but that's my rebuttal to it.
And just real quick, I bet you Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, all his coaches, I bet you their conversations sound more like Jesse and my conversation than you guys realize. I bet it's not like, well, we tried hard. It's not like that. They're criticizing, trying to figure out how to win that Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, let me put this in perspective for you. I turned 40 years old this year. Okay. I have my oldest son turns 11 this year. That's how old I was the last time they won a Super Bowl. 11 years old. So my now oldest son is going to be the age that I was the last time we won the Super Bowl. That's kind of surreal to think about. Like, that's the way that I view it. And like I said, there's a lot of people that watch this channel that have never witnessed a Super Bowl. I would say probably a majority. A majority of you haven't seen the 49ers even win a Super Bowl. Like, that's the reality of the situation. So,
my youngest is 15. I got a 24-year-old, 20-year-old, 17-year-old, and a 15-year-old. I was 15 last time the 49ers won a Super Bowl. My kids have never seen one.
Muff says, "Oh, midlife crisis." Okay. Definitely. Listen, I'm not saying it can't be worse. Yes, it definitely can be worse. I agree with you. It could be worse, but it could be better. It definitely could be better. So, all right, let's talk about this one, because this is kind of where my take that I've been thinking about comes in, and this is where the title of the show comes in. So the title of the show is Blowing the Lid Off the Biggest 49ers Secret. So here's my feeling. And the question that I'm going to pose to you is, does it matter who starts at quarterback? I don't think it does, Ryan. I know that, like, we look at it and we're like, oh my God, if Sam Darnold starts, or, man, I really want Trey Lance to start, or I really want Brock Purdy to start. Does it matter this year? I really genuinely don't think it does. Now, for the future, there would be implications. Of course, if Sam Darnold starts all year, we still don't know anything about Trey. He probably gets traded. Brock Purdy, we still don't know about him. There's going to be hope there. But for this season, I don't know if the ceiling changes with any of these guys. And Sam Darnold, I get it. I'm seeing ghosts and he turns the ball over a lot. But in this offense, with these weapons, I would fully expect that Sam Darnold would have the best year of his career and look very competent. I think all three of these guys could look like top 15 guys for a season in this offense, and I would not be surprised. So I know that this is kind of the conversation that's been dominating the offseason yet again, because the 49ers don't have a quarterback. I think the reality of the situation, Ryan, is I don't know if it matters which one of them starts. I don't know if it changes the outcome of the season. I really don't. I think it might change a win here or there, but I think all three of them, if they start all season long, make the playoffs. And once they get to the playoffs, we know that Kyle Shanahan's going to go a little bit more conservative. They're going to rely on the run game. They're going to rely on the defense. And you just have to hope that none of these guys make a mistake. Now, obviously, the upside of Lance, maybe even Purdy, based off of what we've seen from Sam Darnold long-term, can be higher. And you would be punting on that and knowing what the answer to that is. But for this season, where they are at in their careers, with Trey Lance still being almost, we know nothing about, he has to grow into who he's going to be. Brock Purdy coming off of an injury and only starting 8 games or whatever it is himself. Sam Darnold at 56 starts comes into a really good situation. I really genuinely don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. Think I'm off my rocker by saying that?
I see what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree. The outcome will probably be the same, but there's a probably there for me. And the reason why I say that is because Trey Lance is a huge unknown. We don't know. And if he was able to play 18 weeks, 17 weeks, who knows what he could become. And so maybe it could make a difference. I think, to me, Brock Purdy will probably win 1 or 2 more games than Sam Darnold. Maybe 2 or 3. Maybe. Probably 1 or 2 than Sam Darnold.
All right, hold on. Let's go back for a second. Okay, if Brock Purdy starts, what do you think their record is? He starts all season. He's healthy. Starts all season. What do you think their record is with Brock Purdy?
I mean, it's tough right now so early, but I would say I'm thinking 11 games, 11, 12 maybe, something like that.
You think that they take a 2-game step back with Sam Darnold? So you think they're a 9 or 10 game winning team?
I think they could be a 10. Sam Darnold's turnovers scare the hell out of me. I don't like Sam Darnold.
He's a bad decision maker, but Ryan, at least he has the upside to make a big time throw. Jimmy Garoppolo turned the ball over like crazy too, but he didn't have the upside to make those big throws, and they still were able to make it to a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship with him.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm coming from. Is I don't, and also if Kyle Shanahan's in his ear and says, "Just throw the damn ball here. This is your option. Do not go anywhere else with the ball." I mean, do those turnovers come down just by proxy of being around great players and Kyle Shanahan telling him where to throw the ball?
I do expect him to play better.
I could see it.
Yeah, I do expect him to play better. Sam Darnold would play better this year than he ever has in his whole career. I expect that. But I feel like Brock Purdy just does what Kyle wants him to do, right? They don't really have a deep passing game. That has to be entered into the offense, honestly. They ran it a little bit with Trey Lance, but it's really just like, can you get the ball out quick and be accurate and run it the way I want you to? That's really what it's about. And I feel like Brock Purdy, if he was healthy right now, would probably, it's like the video you made, Mr. Right versus Mr. Right Now, right? And I think Brock Purdy could start off hotter than probably both quarterbacks. And I think he'd probably get you to 11 or 12. I think Sam Darnold, if he started and played the whole season, he might get you to 9 to 11, somewhere in that range. But with Trey Lance, I feel like he might lose 1 or 2 games more early in the season than Brock Purdy. But by week 17, if he's healthy, who knows, man? He could be really damn good. We just don't know. And so in that regard, it could make a difference. It could make a difference. This, like everyone says, we have this Super Bowl window. We just don't have the quarterback. Well, what happens if they start Trey Lance and he turns into that quarterback? And I think that's why it would matter to me. And here's the other reason, like, if the outcomes are going to be the same, right? If we're just going to win, get to the playoffs, lose somewhere in the playoffs, or we're in the Super Bowl anyways, well, then let's find out what the hell Trey Lance can do if we're going to do that anyways. That's how I've felt for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and like I said, I think definitely, if Sam Darnold's the starter, there are implications that could ruin future years. It does matter for future years, but for this year, I mean, let's say the difference between Trey, Sam, and Purdy is 1 win each. Okay, let's say Purdy wins 12 games, Sam would win 11, and Trey would win 10. Well, you're still going to make the playoffs. You're probably not getting a bye week at 12 wins anyways. You've got to win 13, maybe even 14 games to get a bye week. So you're not going to get the bye week. You're going to go into the playoffs. You're going to be just as effective and confident because at least they know that, oh, I can win with this quarterback. So they're going to rally behind him. But like I said, Kyle's going to dial it back a little bit. They're going to turn into a running team. They're going to play defense like they always do. And I just don't, and none of the three, I don't think can go head to head with any of those teams in the AFC. I think any one of these three could go to a Super Bowl with this roster, with Kyle Shanahan and everything there. But I don't think any of the three can win it. Not this year. Not this year.
Based on what we know, I'd agree with you. But that's the thing. Based on what we know, the biggest question mark, I mean, there's question marks around all of these guys, right? Can Sam Darnold improve under Kyle Shanahan and play better than he has in the rest of his career? Can Brock Purdy come back from his elbow injury and be the same, if not better? But the biggest question mark is with Trey Lance. Like, we all talk about, well, a lot of us do. A lot of us don't want to talk about it. But Trey Lance's ceiling being so high. And if he can reach that by playing this year, then maybe he can win the Super Bowl. I don't know. We thought going into last year, I think you did. I'm pretty sure you did. You, Grant, myself, going into last year with Trey Lance and the roster that we had, we predicted they were going to win the Super Bowl. I believe you did that, didn't you? So I think that I feel the same way. If Trey Lance can develop, possibly we can. We can at least go to the Super Bowl. I just don't know. I think it matters to me because we haven't seen Trey Lance, and I'm tired of waiting. I saw Stats Guerrera on Grant's show the other day, and he says, I want to open my Christmas present, right? I'm tired of staring at it. And I feel the same way about Trey Lance. He's like that Christmas present sitting there in the box, and you're like trying to wake your parents up so you can hurry up and open it. That's how I feel. I want to see what this kid can do, and who knows? Now, just to reiterate, I don't want to talk too much. I'm sorry, Jess, but what I will say, though, also is people think I'm more of a Trey stan than I am. I just want the 49ers to have an elite quarterback. As soon as I have enough body of work from Trey Lance to see that he's not that guy, I'll be the first one to be like, no, get him out of here. We need someone else. But we haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. And I'm definitely, I mean, I was a Trey guy coming into the draft. Certainly, I'm in the same spot as you. And my take's always been the same. I do think he's going to be a bona fide top 7 quarterback in this league. However, I'm not so stubborn on that I'm like, oh, that's for sure going to happen. I know it for a fact. And I know we get up here and we speak with a lot of confidence on these things. And it seems like we're talking factual sometimes. And so it's hard for people to decipher like really what our feelings are. And maybe we've got to do a better job of displaying that. But for me, I just want to know. I've got to know. And if he sucks, he sucks. Like, okay, you know, hey, I thought he'd be the guy coming out of the draft. I was wrong. He sucks, whatever. But you can't, there's no way that you can tell me that off of 4 games. You just can't.
No.
And what's crazy is you've got these same people who have made this thought that he does suck, and they're standing behind that take, but they are willing to let 56 start Sam Darnold go because he's just never had the weapons. Oh, word, because I don't remember. I mean, how many times did Trey throw to CMC and George Kittle? One time he had George Kittle, and oh, wow, that was the best game he played when they needed to win a game to go to the. That's a strange concept. And he's never played with CMC. So, yeah, I mean, I want to see it. I just want to know. That's all. I just want to know. I don't think it's too much to ask. Yeah. And once we know, we know. But right now, we don't know. We feel the same way we did coming out of college. If you like Trey Lance coming out of college, you still like Trey Lance. Yeah. If you didn't like Trey Lance coming out of college, you don't like Trey Lance still. Nothing is literally nothing has changed, and we're going into year 3 with Trey Lance. And nothing has changed. If your stance was one way when he was coming out of college, your stance hasn't changed. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a couple people out there that their stance has changed, which would be weird. But I've got to imagine that if your stance was one thing before the draft, that your stance has not changed on Trey Lance.
And I feel that the 49ers brass is, obviously they know more than us about what goes on with Trey Lance behind the scenes, but to a degree, they got to feel the exact same way as the people you just said. If you liked him coming in the draft, just like Kyle Shanahan said, I don't feel any different about Trey Lance than I did 3 years ago when I moved up in the draft to get him, because how could you? He hasn't shown you one way or the other that he's better or worse. He hasn't done anything. And so to answer your original question, does it matter who starts at quarterback? If the end result is going to be the same no matter what, then yeah, it matters to me, because at least we can see what the hell Trey Lance is made of.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where it's at, and so I don't know. I mean, all I know, and people can say what they want, but if people are drawing a conclusion, mainly after Trey Lance, we saw clear growth from the Cardinal game to the Texans game, and then you're going to see I actually saw growth in the Chicago game, because I'm looking at the little nuances of how a quarterback plays, stepping up in the pocket presence, making quick throws, those types of things. I actually saw that progression in the Chicago game, even though it's raining. Now everybody else is looking at stats and like, oh, he sucked and da 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 da. But if you're going to take a monsoon game where they lost Elijah Mitchell, they didn't have CMC yet, Kittle didn't play, Debo was out of shape. I mean,
Debo fumbled on the goal line.
Yeah, I mean, if that's really what you're going to base your opinion on, if you don't think he's good, then more power to you. But what I do know is this, and everybody says it was jitters, but when I watched that Seattle game, the first Seattle game, when Jimmy was playing and it sprinkled a little bit, he was erratic as hell. And when it sprinkled for a little bit in that playoff game against Seattle, for one drive it sprinkled, Purdy was more erratic than you had ever seen him. That wasn't because of nerves. It was because it was raining. That's what rain will do to a quarterback. If you can't grip a ball, it's really hard to throw the ball downfield. He wasn't erratic because he was nervous. The kid, that's one thing I love about Purdy, is he has a bulletproof mindset. I do not believe it was due to nerves. He was erratic for one series, and it happened to be the series that it was sprinkling. You throw him in a downpour game and you think that all of a sudden he was just going to light it up. No, we've seen Jimmy play in rain games. It's awful. We saw a small glimpse of light rain from Purdy, and it looked awful. So now we can't have that same thought for Trey Lance, like, oh, it was raining 5 times harder and you expected he play good. Well, but Justin Fields, they took the ball away from Justin Fields all game long. Oh, 3rd and 3, run. 3rd and 5, run. The whole game up until they had the broken play, they didn't even want Justin Fields to throw the ball. They were running on third down every single time because it was crap out there. They were just waiting and hoping that maybe the 49ers could make a mistake that they could capitalize on. And they ended up being right because Justin Fields, right after that crappy penalty, the way the sequence goes, crappy penalty on third down when they ran the ball from Greenlaw, that extends the drive. Very next play, Justin Fields throws it right into Gibson's chest for an interception. Gibson drops it because it's pouring down rain. We saw him catch it plenty when it wasn't pouring down rain. So then the very next play, you have the broken play, and then the whole game changes. That's how it actually went down. But before that, they didn't want him to throw the ball on third down. They were begging for the 49ers to just stop the run game. That's all they did up to that point. So everybody has revisionist history. Everybody can look at it and say, oh, well, I mean, the Seattle game was a playoff game. Are we really going to compare that? And look at what Purdy's stats were at the end of the game. I'm not talking about that. Purdy played great, but for one drive, Purdy looked awful. He had 3 awful throws, and it was because it was sprinkling. That's what it comes down to. So I don't know, man. I don't understand how people can derive a whole opinion based off of 3 games, essentially, and one was in a downpour. I don't get it.
Here's the other thing, Jesse, that the other game he had was Arizona, broken finger, 16 runs. It was a horrible game plan. He had a broken finger. And you really can't. The Texans game was the closest to an actual game that he had, right? Without a rain or a broken hand and 16 running plays, right? So everyone just got to really chill out. We haven't seen anything from Trey Lance at all yet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. So, like I said, if your opinion is that he's going to be a bust or he was never going to be good, you're entitled to that opinion. I'm not saying you can't have that opinion, but if that's your opinion, I've got to imagine that was your opinion of him when he was drafted. It just hasn't changed. And nobody could fully change what their opinion was based off of what we've seen. It's just way too early. Way too early. So that's the way that I view it. Yeah. I guess, I mean, excuses or context, however you want to say it. I mean, if it had rained all game in Seattle and Brock Purdy looked the way that he did that first drive, what would you say? When he looked good up until that point, would you say that was an excuse or would you say that was context?
I mean, how did the offense look when Purdy took over? How many games in a row did they win when he took over? I mean, there's context to all this stuff. Who was he throwing to? It's completely different. I mean, you call it an excuse, that's fine, but it's just factual context.
Yeah, I think everything has context. Everything that you do has context. Now, yeah, I mean, to a certain point, if we're 20 starts into his career and it's erratic and it doesn't look good, and I'm like, well, in this game it was this, and in that game it was that, and in this game it was, and remember when this play, and then that would be excuses. We're now 20 plus games into his career. We've seen it. We know what he is. We know. All right. That's a little bit different. But we're three starts in. And that's excuses, or is that context? I don't know. I look at that as context. Gammon says 49ers fan base is divided into 3 different teams. The Simp for Sam, Team Lance lovers, and the Brockness monsters. 49ers flirting says with other QBs says they are team blank. Finish the sentence. 49ers flirting with other QBs says they are team nobody. I mean, if they're truly flirting with these other quarterbacks or getting another quarterback, then they're team nobody. Their team trying to get elite quarterback because they know that's what wins.
Yeah, they're just like, who can go out there and win a game right now for us? That's who we want.
Right. Hold on, let me. We got one more topic here, and then I'm gonna take some calls. So I want to drop this link in here. First 5 people, you're the ones that are gonna get on the show. We're gonna finish this last topic, and then Ryan's gonna get out of here. And then you guys can come on the show. So the link is there. All right. Final topic. So there was a website. It was like 33rd something. I think they're a fantasy website. They're actually doing really good. Shout out to them. but they put together their top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC. And the order was Hurts, Fields, Danny Dimes, Purdy, and Stafford. Hurts, Fields, Danny Dimes, Purdy, and Stafford. That's their top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC. Agree, disagree? What would you change? How do you see it?
So the biggest one here's the biggest one that bothers me. I know he's a Seahawk. I get it. We don't like the Seahawks. I don't like the Seahawks. But Geno Smith was snubbed. If you're basing this off of last year's performance, Geno Smith was snubbed, and he's been getting a lot of hate. I don't understand why. Maybe it's because he's a Seahawk. Maybe because he didn't have great seasons before. But if you're basing this off of what we saw last year, Geno Smith has to be somewhere up in here. Like, he has to be. He was statistically, I think he was top 3 in 3 different categories. He had an amazing job in the deep ball. I think he was one of the best deep ball passers in the NFL. He had a 70% completion percentage, I believe. Geno Smith was snubbed on this. I don't really get it. Maybe it's because it's 1 year, but Brock Purdy only played 8 games, and he's on here. And better than Stafford, that I guess it's just hard for me. Are they saying this is how they're going to be ranked this coming year, or are they saying these are the best quarterbacks? Because Brock Purdy can't even throw a football right now.
I know.
Yeah, so it's a little weird. It's a little confusing. I think Hurts is no question needs to be up there on top. Fields, I don't necessarily disagree with, but I think Geno Smith was a better quarterback than Fields last year, if we're being honest.
So, I think this whole list is trash. That's what I think. I think throw away the whole thing because it doesn't make any outside of Hurts number 1. The rest of it's buns. Yeah. So the way that I see it is, if they're going off of last year, that would be one thing, but then Stafford can't be on here. So once you put in Stafford, you're now not going off of last year. You're just going off of who you think the top 5 quarterbacks are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, and we can rag on these other players all we want, but Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr is now in the NFC. Not great quarterbacks. I'm not trying to pretend these guys are even top 10 guys.
Yeah.
But these guys have been top 12 to 14 guys for many, 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 many years at this point. Yeah. Okay. You didn't have one of them on the list, or Geno, who won comeback player of the year. You didn't have any of them on the list. You know what's funny is I put out a blind poll, and I had almost 1,000 people vote on this. This was a couple months ago. And I put out Daniel Jones stats, all of the stats, like 6 or 7 of them, and Justin Fields stats. But I didn't say who the player was, and I said, pick a player. 98% picked Daniel Jones. 98% of people.
Yeah.
So to have Fields number 2, and I think Fields, if this is like, hey, what's the upside?
Like the expectation, maybe?
Like I can totally get behind the list. And those other guys I would probably remove, and I would have it maybe more similar to what they have. But that's not what the list is, or that's not what I gather the list is.
Yeah.
They haven't done it yet. These guys haven't done it yet. Purdy had 7 games, we're talking 200 something regular season snaps. Jones had, I think, 2 games over 300 yards passing. They were both against the same horrible defense. And then Fields, what do you have? 3 games where he went over 200 yards passing, and there was like 4 games where he had a chance with the game on the line and he threw an interception.
Yeah.
So yes, very dynamic, but we still need to see it, and we need to see him with weapons. We need to see him with better weapons before we can make a full judgment. And we need to see a 3rd full year. But I can't say one way or another that he deserves to be in here over those other guys. I think in whatever order you want to go in, and if Stafford's healthy, I mean, that's another caveat. If Stafford's healthy, that's a big if. So I can't say that he should be on here either. But if he was healthy, I would probably put him maybe arguably as the number 2 guy, but I would certainly have Kirk. I would certainly have Dak. Dak would be in there. Kirk would be in there. Stafford, Hurts, and then you can either go with Carr or Geno. Yeah. But I wouldn't have Purdy, Jones, or Fields in there if I'm making the list.
Yeah.
Not yet.
If you're basing it on last year, I mean, Cousins got to be there. Geno has to be there if you're basing it on last year, but it depends on what they're looking at. Maybe like this is who they think, but it's kind of weird for them to think that about Purdy and Stafford when They both have throwing arm issues. Who knows,
Right.
man? Stafford could be completely washed now, right? And Purdy, we don't know. He's unknown, So it's definitely interesting. And like Fields, like I thought he was very exciting as a runner. And they are building the team around him. So, maybe he will succeed. Who could be good this year too is Goff. I could see Goff making a step up this year as well.
Goff could be in there too. Goff's
Yeah.
a multiple-time Pro Bowler for 2 different teams. Goff,
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't even mention Goff.
Yeah. So list is trash.
Yeah, the list is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, let's take Kirk Cousins for example. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons over 4,000 yards passing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons with at least 29 touchdown passes and 3 over 30. I mean, what are we even talking about? I mean, we can say that he's whatever in clutch moments. Okay, that's fantastic.
Right.
But what did Jones do in the clutch? We haven't even seen Fields in a clutch situation. Purdy played well, but we're talking a game in the playoffs. So it's like, what are we really talking about here? Like, how did these guys all of a sudden get to jump somebody who's put together that many seasons in their career where they've been clearly a top 12 guy for the last 8 seasons of their career? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Quarterback lists are fun because no matter how, like, you could spend 2 days working on your quarterback list and half the people are going to hate your list, but this list is absolutely not good.
Oh, it's bonkers. This list is awful. Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we agree on that one. Yes, I don't even know. I didn't see what the chat's saying. I just dropped the link in there again for y'all. You want to come in. I got Gammon waiting backstage. I'm willing to take up to 5 people. Ryan, this was late notice. Thank you so much for jumping on. Hopefully your internet gets fixed tomorrow. It actually held up pretty good. It held up pretty good tonight. But I know it's super frustrating. Thank you so much for coming on as always. And link is in the description. Go subscribe to his channel. Ryan, appreciate you, man. Peace.
Yeah, much appreciated, man. Thank you for having me on, buddy. I appreciate you, bud.
Absolutely, man. Later. Hey, what's up, dude? You're muted.
Sorry, that rookie mistake.
Yeah, it's like what? You've never called into this show before? What's going on?
Right. It looks even better that I got that $10 donation hanging over there too. I mean, it's just like I paid for my own suffering. How are you doing, big dog?
I'm doing good, man. I'm dying right now. I've got this cold that's lingering in this cough, and that's why I didn't want to do like just a call-in show that would last for 2+ hours because I know that my throat won't hold up. So hopefully I can make it through these calls and then we'll be good to go.
Well, what happened to your throat?
I'm just sick. I'm just trying to get over a cold. So I just keep coughing for no reason.
I got you. So I had a question and it's not really topic related, right? But one of the things that I've noticed is we like you're a fan, even though for whatever reason on the Twitterverse, some people don't acknowledge that you're a fan or your fandom. But one of the questions that I did have for you is that because I'm a fan of you being a fan of the 49ers, so a fan of the fan, right? And it's always so funny how our perception of things gets kind of intertwined or entangled or maybe misconstrued, I think is a better term for it. So for instance, I'll bring this up. Jason Aponte and then Brad Graham, we were kind of seeing this thing where we thought there was a disconnect or these two guys didn't like each other, or even Vish Kumaran and then Grant Cohn. And then I'll be honest with you, I actually thought there was beef going on between you and Jack Hammer until I saw Jack Hammer on Brad Graham's show. And he was like, oh, by the way, my friend, right, Jesse pointed out to me or that sort of thing. So, and I've done this actually on all the shows, I think on Grant's show, on Brad's show with Jason on there. So just kind of like a quick question, for you, how, when you see that kind of happen, and is it kind of like an old married couple kind of relationship between you two, or how would you describe that? Because when he said my friend Jesse pointed out, it doesn't sound like it was kind of what we're seeing on the Twitter space.
Yeah, a lot of people think that Jack, like if you go off of just Twitter, think Jack and I don't like each other. We do a weekly show together. So it's just football, man. That's what it comes down to. It's just football. And I think when you're texting or you're reading text, there's context that is left out. We've been talking about that a lot tonight, context. There's tone is left out. There's intention that can be left out. And so reading that or seeing two people go back and forth and have a heated debate about sports, people think that automatically, oh, these people must not like each other. But for me, it's just fun. I mean, we're talking sports. I don't mind anybody pushing back or disagreeing with me. This is why I like the call-in show portion, because you get real perspective. You hear the tone, you see the facial expressions, all those things. It's a little bit different than when you're just doing something on Twitter. Twitter removes all of that. And depending on how you feel, that's the tone that you're receiving. So if you think somebody's being combative or doesn't like you, and that's how you're reading it, then that's how it's going to be perceived for the rest of the conversation. So I know that there's no ill intent on his side. He knows there's no ill intent on this side. And so it's just really heated conversation about a team that we both enjoy.
Right. Absolutely. And for all the smart people out there, if you can snip this, edit it in such a way that it makes it look like Jesse said something horrible about Jack Hammer, that would be absolutely incredible. Another thing too, I want to say is because I think that you're aware. You're a very aware person, right? A couple questions about this is how hard was it for you when you lost your first channel? I don't want to say lost your first channel, but I think what happened there, like you kind of deleted it, because I really think you hit 10K subscribers not too long ago, but that last channel, it was really ramping up. So how, for all the new, young, up and coming, or people who like, I want to go ahead and create my own channel, or this is something I want to do what Jesse's doing, what are some lessons learned the first go around? How hard was it mentally to go like, I've got to redo this all over again, 1K, 2K, 5K subs, build it back up? What were like the other defining lessons that you learned from that second time around? And I guess the bigger question is like, now that you've done this twice, if you had to do it a third time, is there something different that you do where you're like, hey, no, if I had to, and I had to make a video about like, hey, this isn't just like a thing, like I could actually just duplicate this process all over again. I could get back up to 10K subs.
Oh yeah. I mean, I am doing it a third time. I've got that second channel. It's technically like the third time around, right? So
true. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the emotion of losing that channel in that moment was frustrating. I mean, you're talking about 8 months of extremely hard work. We were close to 3,000 subs, and it's like, oh my gosh, like you just felt like the world was crashing down. Like, man, that I worked so hard. You know how many hours I took away from doing other things and being with my family, and didn't just have the channel taken away the way that it was. It sucked, man. It absolutely sucked. And so, like, yeah, there was a week period where it's like, man, do I really, really want to do this again?
Because it was a monetized channel, right?
What was that?
It was a
monetized channel. Yeah, it was a monetized channel. So it was like, do I really want to do this again? This is going to be a grind. What's this going to look like? Ultimately, it ended up being the best thing that could have happened, because at that time, the channel was 4 of us. You know, we had different teams that we talked about, and then we would come together once a week and we would talk about all sports. The reality of the situation is that if you're going to do something on YouTube, if you want it to get a lot of views, or you want to turn it into a career potentially or whatever, you have to niche down. You don't have to necessarily cover one team, but you have to like stick with the topic. So if you look at the second channel that I now have, and this is where the advice would come in, and what I've learned is, one, you have to niche down, which is, so that second channel is all NFL teams or all NFL content, but it's all within the same realm. It's all NFL content. Okay. Before it was like, oh, one show I'm talking MMA and boxing, and the next one I'm talking basketball. And you just can't be all over the place. You have to figure out something you want to do, whether it's a team, an organization, or whatever. So that's one. And then I would say the next thing is, and I know that subs is what everybody celebrates. Everybody looks at the subs of a channel and they're like, oh, this channel is better than this channel, or this channel must be making more money than this channel, or whatever. Subs has zero to do with anything. Literally nothing. Sub count has nothing to do with anything. And I know that that's when you see us go out and post about our channel, or when we hit a milestone like 10,000 subs, we're like, hey, thanks, 10,000 subs. And we do. We love it because it's a community.
Right.
But those 10,000 subs from a standpoint of how do I get paid, or how do I tell if my channel is being successful, has nothing to do with it. As long as you have your 4,000 watched hours and your 1,000 subs, you can get monetized. And I can tell you the reason that it means nothing is because once you get to that point, what does matter is your view count, your click-through rate, and your retention rate. So YouTube is going to reward you if you have a high click-through rate, meaning if they show this video to 1,000 people, they want to see a click-through rate of 7+%, where they want at least 7% of the people that see this video to click through it. And if they do, and they click on it, and then the retention is high, meaning they've watched a big chunk of that video, they're going to push it out to more people. That's how the algorithm actually works. Okay. It's not subs to a channel or any of that stuff. That doesn't matter. And I don't get paid any more money if somebody subs. You get paid more money if people watch. So that second channel I have right now, it's not monetized. I don't have 1,000. I don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. I do have the 4,000 watched hours. But if you look at the numbers that channel is pushing out, bro, I've posted 19 videos on that channel. I've got a video that has 20,000 views, another one with 15,000 views, another one with 14,000 views, another one with 10, a few of them with 5. I just cracked 600 subs on that channel. So that proves the point that even if you have one sub, you can still get views. You can still be successful on YouTube. You don't have to be a big channel. There's so many viewers that watch this that, like Grant. Grant's a really good example. He has 70,000 subs or whatever he has. It's a lot. But there's 1 million 49er fans that watch YouTube. If I didn't have one person from Grant's channel come sub to my channel, I could still blow up on YouTube with 49er content, because ultimately there's so many people out there that not even Grant, who's killing it, or Brad, who's killing it, not even those guys have scratched the surface yet. So don't worry about things that don't matter. Crush your click-through rate, crush your viewer retention. And the way that you do that is you put together good content, you make intriguing thumbnails and intriguing titles, and that's how you win long-term in YouTube.
That was incredibly detailed, and that was way better than any $5 or $10 donation question I asked. If you can, I want to take a look at Mr. Big Tuane 49er. The question that he asked at 9:03 p.m. Was, so what's the point of subscribing? Was one of the questions that he had. And while you're kind of thinking that question, Chris Hansen said, my German Shepherd I had since 2008, which was actually the same year that I joined the Army, died recently. My heart's out for you.
Wait, what happened? I didn't see this. Where's this at?
Let's see. So it's at 9:03. So it's actually kind of sandwiched in between Rumilia's sports report, which shout out to him. I know a lot of people, 49ers fans, give him flack, but I've talked to him on a personal level. He's actually a great guy. It's just, lack of better terms, you shit on him, he shits back, but it's honestly nothing but love. He's not. People think he's a troll. He's
a Rams fan.
Yeah, and I really like but if you ever get a chance to get to know him, and it would be kind of cool if you had him on before like a Rams game. But he's actually like, don't be mad at me, Rumilia, but he's actually kind of a sweetheart. Like he's a genuine, like, actually nice guy if you talk to him nicely. But yeah, I just want to say, Chris Hansen, I feel so sorry for that. I actually just got a puppy German Shepherd about 2 years ago. But the fact that he lived so long, I don't know if male or female, but
I see it now.
yeah,
I see it.
yeah, I mean, that's
rough, man. That's rough. I've got 3 dogs, and one of them's like 16. She's like literally on her last leg. So that sucks, man. Sorry to hear that. That definitely sucks, man. So, but
that question, yeah, kind of right above them is, so then because you do, right, you and it's not you, I don't want to say you, but because this isn't your only job too, if anybody out there is wondering.
Dude, this isn't. I don't. In some, people are asking about, and Chris, what I was going to say, the reason I said but was, once you finally get over that heartache, you get the excitement, depending on where you're at in life, if you want to take on another one and kind of restart that cycle. So, shout out to you, man. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's definitely crappy for sure. So, but somebody, oh yeah, no, brother, no way. I mean, if I went full time on YouTube based off of like subs and views and everything. All right, let's get real for a minute. If I go full time on YouTube based off of the content that I push now and just 4x that content, okay, which is about what I could do if I went full time, I'd make like 50 grand a year. That's not anything to sneeze at, right? I'm not, but for me, that's not near enough to provide for my family. So
and that's not a guarantee either.
Yeah, and that's not a guarantee. I mean, that could fluctuate. It could be 70 grand, it could be 30 grand. It just really depends on how things are going. And so it's, that's the reality of the situation. And so it will take a lot for me to go full time, right? I do this because of the joy. The money that I get from it so far, I've put back into the channel through equipment, or upgrading, teaching myself things to get better, teaching myself to make better thumbnails and titles. I'm going to use some of it to go to training camp this year, that type of stuff. But it's not like life-changing money or going to, I'm willing to quit my job or even close. It's not nowhere near that, at least not for me. Very, very far away from that for sure. And somebody had asked, what's the point of subscribing? Twofold. One, it just shows that you support the channel. It's like giving a tip. You know what I mean? It's just your way of saying, hey, I support the channel. I like what you're doing. And that's why we ask for it, because at least in, I think, this type of channel where it's a lot of live content, that's a majority of the content you get. You want a sense of community. Like, I don't just come on here and like, I know who all these people are. Like, I see the same people over and over, and you kind of get to know each other through the chat or calling in or whatever. So to me, a channel like this is a sense of community versus, hey, I could make a faceless channel where I don't ever go live or anything like that, which is kind of like what the second channel is. I don't do any lives. I'm not going to get super close with the people that subscribe over there unless you subscribe over here. It's literally just like, hey, I want to make all NFL content. So I'm doing shorter form content and I'm putting out high quality videos, and I'm doing it completely different than what I've done over here. But for me, subscribing over here shows, hey, it's a sense of you want to be a part of the Last Second Sports community. You appreciate what's going on. And if you hit the bell notification, then you'll get notified every time I go live, which then in turn means, oh, you're probably more likely to watch. And then that's kind of how the cycle goes as far as, oh, that's how you get paid ultimately, is by views and those types of things. So that's why I would say I like subscribers, is because it's like, hey, you want to be a part of the community over here. But subscribers overall to most YouTubers, they really don't matter. I mean, like I said, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours. That's how people get monetized. And then from there, anything above 1,000, I mean, unless they're trying to do something like what we're doing over here, or what, other sports channels may be doing, or whatever. Most channels don't go live. They make content. They spend a week making content. They put out their one video a week, and that's it. So really subscribing does nothing except for make it show up on your feed and whatever. But for them, it does nothing. It literally does nothing. So that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, there was another good question. Let me see here. Somebody said, "What's your day job? If you don't mind sharing." Just curious. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I know he has a really bad rap. Emilio Sports Report. Rudy he has a bad rap. But honestly, if you ever get a chance to, and it's probably not going to happen. It's hard to talk to anybody like you, right? Like it's hard to actually get that one-on-one conversation. But if you ever get a chance to talk to him, you learn like a whole different side of somebody, and he's really not a bad guy. Honestly, he's a fan like us. It's just he cheers for the wrong team.
Yeah. But shout out to you, Amelia. Yeah. All Niner says, "What's your day job? If you don't mind sharing." I'm in project management for a tech company, so that's what I do. Been there for 17 years. So yeah, I mean, and it works good. I work from home, take really good care of me. I've got amazing benefits, and it's allowed me to support my family comfortably. So. What was that?
I said this is being recorded, Jesse. So
yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I don't mind. So yeah, I mean, it's been great. I love what I do, and I love this too. So for me, I'm not in a position where it's like, oh, I hate my job and whatever. It's like, if this could be my full-time job, I would love that, but it's going to take a lot to come even close to scratching the surface. So I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. But what I will say is I grind and I make sure that the content comes. Like, the channel's not going to die. I love every ounce of this. Everything about this I absolutely love. And there are people that are full-time that I would argue I put in as many hours as they do, even though I work full-time. I coach my kids. I've got a family, all that stuff. I love this. Like, I love this. So I'm not going anywhere. I guarantee that. Not going anywhere. So, Gammon, I got it, dude. I got to go. My throat is dying. I'm about to lose it and cough like crazy. What I appreciate about having you on is you always ask different questions that aren't necessarily pertain to the topics of the conversation. But you make me think, and you make me go a little bit deeper. And I don't mind sharing at all who I am if people ask. So I appreciate that. I love that you ask, and I love that you support the channel the way that you do, Gammon. Appreciate you as always, brother. Thank you.
Last question. One last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have to let me ask this one question, and then I'm literally gonna hit the little X square in the upper right hand corner as soon as I ask this question. None of us get anywhere without mentors or mentorship, right? Like, eventually when we start to step into something, somebody actually takes us seriously, and then we kind of show that proof, or we start to kind of like on that proving battleground, like who we are, and we start to kind of come in there, and we're hoping somebody like takes us under their wing. Sometimes it happens by choice, like, hey, I would love it if you mentored me. And then sometimes it happens by haphazardly, like, hey, I know this person didn't take you, but I would love to show you the ropes. But as we exit off here, is there like a single mentor where you just go like, hey, this guy just really helped me out so much. And then at the same time, and it is just a yes or no question. You don't have to say any names, but is there somebody or somebodies that you're mentoring? Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the question is, I would assume you're going based off of the YouTube game. So yeah, Grant would have been that guy who took me under his wing. But Grant's a little bit different, right? And so this is kind of where I had to steer a little bit different from Grant as far as how I provide content and strategically the way I do it. Grant is, first of all, he's a larger than life personality. Like, people tune into Grant because he's a character, man. And he loves what he's doing. He puts on a show. That's not what I do. That's at the core of who I am. I'm an analytical guy. I look at stats. I dive deep. I definitely like to have fun, but like I'm not a larger than life personality the way that Grant is, right? So we have to be different as far as that goes. And also, if you look at the way that he's made his channel, Grant puts out content all the time. If he has a live show, he's cutting that out into 6 other videos and he's just pumping out content repeatedly. Content. If you look at my channel and how many videos I've put out since I've started, I'm at like 330 something. I mean, I'm at like a third of what most of these people are. You got people that started channels this year that have more content on their channel than I do if you add in their shorts and their cut up videos and whatever. So I'm not able to put out as much content due to time constraints and what have you. So I have to go about it a little bit differently. And so that's where I found, okay, these people that put out 1 video a week, how are they successful? They're successful through thumbnails, titles, and retention rate. And so that's how I have to be successful as well, because even if I put out, if I'm on 8 shows in a week, only 3 of those are on my channel and the other ones are on other channels. And so I have to be really, really diligent about and strategic about how I put that stuff out there. So I would say Grant would be that guy because he definitely kind of brought me into this game. It was calling into his show that I figured out, okay, this is what StreamYard is. This is how you stream live content. And then I picked his brain and asked questions, and that got me my base. But how I attack the game is differently than the way that Grant does it, because he just feeds the algorithm with content nonstop. So I can't do that. I have to do it a little bit different. As far as mentoring other people, I get DMs all the time. What do you do? How do you do this? Or and I answer those questions, but it's not as in depth as, even I went on the show today about what is important on YouTube and how you win on YouTube. It's not that in depth. There are a couple people in the 49er community that I have done channel reviews for, where I've basically said, hey, you're making these types of thumbnails, you're making these types of titles. I would change it to this. If I owned your channel based off of your take in this video, my thumbnail would look like this, my title would look like this. It's different. And so I have helped people in the community go a little bit deeper. And I've helped people that have channels with other sports teams that they cover in the same manner. But there's only a few of them. And it's not that I would love to help everybody. And if you ask a question, I will always answer it. I want to give back as much as possible. But if you want like an in-depth evaluation where I go through your channel, I review your content, I give you an opinion on what I would change, I've only done that for a few people, because that one can be time consuming. So anyways, that's where it's at. My voice is done for. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Really appreciate the support that you give. Hopefully for those of you that are thinking of starting channels or have channels, if you catch this, you're able to learn something from it. And if you have any questions, by all means, you can always DM me on Twitter. You can ask a question in the chat here. I will do my best to help you. I am not afraid to give people help. I want to see everybody succeed and live out whatever their dream is. And if I can help aid in that, I definitely want to do that for you. So appreciate y'all. Have a blessed night. Peace.